couple of years back, there was a story of a gentleman by the name of Kenneth Jeffries. Lived in West Haven, Connecticut. He was a little desperate. He went into a convenience store with a gun in his pocket, walked up to the till, holding a package of gum, put the gum on the table. The clerk looked down, picked up the gum, ran it in, and when she looked up from running the gum through her little machine there, she looked up and saw the man holding a gun in his right hand. She immediately emptied the till. There wasn't much in the till, but took out $40, handed it to him. He took off. The clerk immediately phoned the police. The police began to respond, but while she was waiting for the police to arrive, this gentleman, Kenneth Jeffries, returned to the store. And he looked at her, he said, "I guess in all the commotion with robbing, I forgot to pay for the gum." And handed the clerk the $1 for the gum. He turned around to leave again, and of course by this stage the police showed up, and he was promptly arrested. It's nice to know we have honest thieves out there. We've been talking about the Sermon on the Mount, which begin with the Beatitudes, which basically say, when things are wrong, God is at work. And that sets the stage to show how wrong we as humans can really be. But it's okay. Because Jesus provides the work to make it all better. Jesus comes and he lives the law of God perfectly. And the law is not just rules. Not just rules that are being set out for us, but they are principles that are lived through rules that reflect God's created order. In other words, God set the world up to work a certain way. He set up some rules that we call the law, the 10 Commandments and the rest, that show us how we are to live. But the point isn't so much the rules, it's why did God put the rules in place? And there's often a reason behind it. And so we come up and we heard Jesus say, you've heard it said, do not commit adultery. Jesus comes along and says, don't even treat a person as worthless. We come to do not commit adultery. And Jesus says, don't even look at a woman with lustful eyes. A couple weeks ago we came up to, don't come up with excuses to avoid your marriage vows, but work toward fulfilling them. The Sermon on the Mount are a remarkable set of thoughts. Here is how you should live. But you're never going to be able to do it. Here's how to live. You're never going to be able to pull off, but do it, But here's the setup. But Jesus says, even though you're never going to be able to do it, it's okay. Follow me anyways. Follow me. Because it really sets up what the kingdom of God is all about, and that is going to be that God will remake the world as if sin had never entered it. And even right now, through believers, the kingdom of God is breaking through into this world of darkness, and we should be captivated by this kingdom. And today, we come to what the kingdom of God has to say about oaths. Oaths. Anybody ever seen the movie from back in the 1980s, The Princess Bride? Let's see, who's all seen that? Oh man, you missed a good movie. It is a almost kind of ridiculous story that is just told in such a compelling way that it just grabs your attention. It's actually one of the few clean movies out there that you can watch with everybody. And in this story, the hero is chasing his true love, who is being kidnapped, and they're chasing across the sea, and they come to these cliffs, and the kidnappers have set up ropes to climb up these impossibly high cliffs, and they start climbing with this kidnapped woman with them, and The hero of the story, Wesley, is chasing after them, and he gets to the ropes on his boat, and he starts climbing behind them, and they're amazed that he, such determination. They get to the top, and they chop the rope, and they look down expecting to see that he's fallen to his death, but he's actually grabbed hold of the rocks, and he's still climbing. And so they leave one of the kidnappers behind to deal with him when he finally gets to the top, and the rest of them chase off. And the one they leave behind is an expert swordsman. And he gets bored waiting for him to get to the top, to climb this. He starts yelling down, "Can't we hurry this up? I got things to do." And he said, "Well, you can throw me a rope." And he said, "Well, I can, but I don't think you'll take my rope because I'm just waiting here to kill you." And he replies, "Well, that would damper our relationship a little." And he says, "But I won't kill you. I'll let you get to the top." And he doesn't believe him. He says, "Isn't there any way I can convince you that you will get to the top alive?" He says, "I can't think of anything." And finally, the music changes. He gets a solemn look on his face. There's a close-up with the camera. And he says, and he gives his full long name, "Swear on the grave of my father that you will reach the top alive." And the hero Wesley says, "Well, throw me the rope." And the question that is asked here is, do we need to swear on anything to convince anybody that we're telling the truth? The Pharisees looked at the Ten Commandments and found one that says, "Do not take the name of the Lord your God in vain." In other words, be cautious with swearing oaths in the name of God. And later in the book of Matthew, we get much later, just before Jesus crucified, he condemns the Pharisees harshly, saying this, "You're playing games." Because according to Jesus in Matthew 23, they've come up with these set of rules saying, well, it's okay to swear by the temple, but don't swear by the gold in the temple because that represents God. And they go through all these lists of things you could and could not swear by. The only thing they couldn't swear by was God himself. In ancient cultures, that gave permission for God to punish them if they did not live by what they swore. The Old Testament doesn't allow that, so the Pharisees came up with all sorts of other things that they could and could not swear on. And Jesus says that misses the point. Misses the point. First, because you should just be honest. And second, because you're making a false distinction between what is sacred and what is secular. Some in modern times have seen this and said, well, we won't make an oath, but we'll make affirmations or covenants or something like that. Really, that's playing word games, because the word in Matthew 5 we could translate affirm or affirmation. All heard on the movies, somebody gets to court, and it's quite in Canada the same way, but they swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Well, at some point have to do that, You have a passport, you've sworn an oath. Every year you are required to certify that your taxes are true. Some of you have stood on this very stage, and I have stood in front of you, and I've looked at you and said, do you, and fill in the blank, take, fill in the blank, to be your lawfully wedded wife? That is a type of oath. But Jesus is teaching us some very important principles here. Again, you've heard that it was said to the people long ago, do not break your oath, but fulfill to the Lord the vows you have made. But I tell you, do not swear an oath at all. A little later, we'll come to the middle part in a minute. All you need to say is simply yes or no. Anything beyond that, this comes from the evil one. Yes or no. Simple A. Be honest, especially in our commitments. It's a good principle, isn't it? Be honest. Pharisees came up with all sorts of rules about when you should and should not give oaths. I don't know that they really needed all those rules, but the principle is this: live by your word. Seems pretty basic. Several places in the Old Testament where they talk about oaths say, do not dare to make an oath to God or about God or in the name of God and then turn it into a lie. Honor God with your honesty. Well, it's not just in the moments of oaths. Whenever we make a promise, we are doing it in the name of God, really. And honoring God and being honest go hand in hand. James later will phrase it, let your yes be yes and your name be no. It sounds so simple. And immediately we can come up with all sorts of exceptions. I mean, somebody's going to say, well, should I be honest when the truth hurts? Well, that's not the point here. It's not the point. He's saying if you make a commitment, don't make it into a lie. Don't make it into a lie. Most of the time we're dishonest because it works to my profit. It creates less discomfort for me. It makes me look better. Helps me sell a product, and it's all for me. I know this may make me look good, but it's about more than that. If I'm captivated by the kingdom of God, I am not consumed with what is best for me. As a result, it is better to honor God than profit. I'm honest, even if it hurts me. The Bible even says I should be honest with my taxes, horror of horrors. Maybe that's why the rubber hits the road, if we can be honest there. We're to be true to our promises.